Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome once again to Overflow. I am so excited to have you here. If you've not been here before, welcome, come on in. This is a space for you to become comfortable, soft, safe, and to elevate yourself spiritually, mentally, sexually, sensually, all the ways, boo, okay? All the ways we elevate here. So, welcome into my Goddess Lounge. My name is Rashida Ahmed, and I am excited to have you here in my and sensual and soft space. So, today on Overflow, now this is a topic that I have been blessed to learn more about, and I am quite excited to share what I have been learning, what I have learned, and really opening up to deeper, nuanced conversations and discussions with this topic today. So, today we are talking about supporting your femininity or your feminine energy through the teachings of Jesus Christ. And I want to invite you to lean in from these teachings as a guide or a tool to your own personal development, your own spiritual development, regardless if you believe in Jesus Christ. You don't necessarily have to believe in Jesus Christ to understand and appreciate his teachings and the messages and the example that Jesus Christ gave to the world. And I want to invite you to allow yourself to just listen in. Take the time and space that you need to help self-regulate yourself and, recognizing that you don't have to do nothing you don't want to do. So this video is an invitation to learning and interpreting some of his teachings that I feel can be supportive and can be helpful in your journey to coming into your femininity and allowing your femininity to shine and to be what you want it to be from a perspective that is, in my opinion, divine, holy, um, pure, and in a lot of sense of the ways. So this is the narrative and this is the lens in which I am coming from. And you may have a different perspective and you may have a different mindset and belief system, and that is okay. I am not here to go back and forth in terms of religious semantics and ideologies and doctrine. That isn't what this conversation really is about. This is a conversation for those um, who are seeking and who are looking to continue um, diving into more spiritually mature conversations, because in full transparency, the teachings of Jesus can be found in a large portion of the world's predominant religions today. Um, the teachings of Jesus can be found in the teachings from Buddha. The teachings of Jesus can be found from the teachings of Krishna. The teachings of Jesus can be found in the teachings from Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And the teachings of Jesus is obviously also found in the Holy Bible. So I don't speak of this from a sense of having to affiliate or be connected to one particular religion. I am giving this information. I am disseminating this wisdom that has been channeled through me because I look to Jesus as a teacher, as a spiritual guide, as an example of how I can navigate this life here on earth. And So, this is a video to help you to perhaps see Jesus in a way that maybe you've not yet seen him, get to know Jesus in a way that you have not yet get to know him, um, and broaden what your capacity and your intake for spiritual knowledge. And so I invite you to take your time, pause where you need to pause, you know, look after your body, always support yourself, number one. And we're going to get through this nice and slow. Okay, we're going to take our time and get into this. Okay? Okay. So, first off, I would like to us to just invite in the energy and the presence of stillness and peace and calm, letting go of anxieties and worries and stresses and all that other chatter. We're really allowing ourselves to just come into a space and resonance, a vibration of love, a vibration of just exhale, you know? So, join me as we take a few deep breaths together. I invite you to gently, softly close your eyes so that way you can block out the outside world and go inside into your own world for just a moment. And we are just going to sit here in some beautiful divine silence and allow ourselves and our minds and our bodies to come in connection and to come into communion. So, at the count of three, we will dive into a few deep breaths and just be in our internal silence. And then I will invite you back into the space once we are done. Right. Three, two, one. Inhale deeply. I invite you back into the space slowly and softly. Take another few deep inhales as you need to come back in, to allow the light to shine. Thank you. All right, so let us dive in to today's conversation. I have, again, my notes. I'm a note girl. And I like to have my notes to help me to remain grounded and remain anchored in what I believe is my assignment here. But I also allow flow and fluidity to do its thing. So they're more of a reference than they are set in stone. So we're going to explore today how we interpret the teachings and examples of Jesus Christ from a very feminine perspective. And I say feminine perspective because I would like to just quickly highlight what I mean by the feminine or the masculine, which is the polarity, the other side of the feminine energy. And what I mean by the feminine and and inviting yourself to see Jesus in this light is to interpret or understand some of the teachings from a perspective of a lens at how can this be more compassionate? How can this be more soft? How can this be more nurturing? How can I use less force and more flow here? So these are the ways in which I am inviting you to consider and see femininity and feminine energy from the perspective of Jesus, and recognizing that oftentimes Jesus as a teacher was taught us and was teaching about how we can operate on this earth in divine union and communion with the creator above, but also knowing who you are on the inside and recognizing who that is, and coming into agreement with who that is according to your higher self. Um, Quickly, Jesus was able to do what many would consider miraculous events, was able to do signs and wonders, and was able to operate on this earthly plane during the time of his earthly ministry. Um, from a perspective of very a gentle way of being, a nonviolent approach to the violence that was prevalent in his society at that time and is still prevalent today in today's society. Um, there was a hmm, there was a softness that Jesus exuded, a kindness that Jesus exuded that wasn't always typical or common in that particular time frame. And so, and I mean, probably isn't as common here now too. And so, if we were to look at him as a teacher, as a guide, um, as someone who can give us knowledge and how to live a life where those are your principles or those are the things that help guide you, then you can see how his teachings lended towards being much more gentle, being a lot more nonviolent, being a lot more compassionate and empathetic, being a lot more forgiving, really exhibiting the manifestations of love that we all really want to feel and have, you know. And so, if we were to take a look at how he taught us to be, in terms of, like, for example, one of Jesus's greatest qualities was to take his time. So he really preached to be slow to anger, slow to reactivity, slow to, ooh, output, slow to um, judgment, slow to being in a rush to get things, or to create things or to control things. That really is a demonstration of fluidity and adaptability, which are qualities that the feminine energy loves to thrive in, loves to exist in. And Jesus showed us this through his teachings. And, one particular passage where, it says to be slow to anger. And what does that really mean? Not necessarily anger in the sense of anger as the emotion of anger, but also the output or the expression of force, the output or the expression of violence, of vengeance, and those kinds of, like, the doing and, like, executing. Always, like, if you notice my body, I'm moving forward and I'm using this as a motion to illustrate, even with my body, to communicate with my body, being slow to going there first. And not to say that we don't go there, because we do. It is needed, it is necessary, because you need both, all these energies to exist. But if you would like to lead a life that is a lot more peaceful, a lot more connected, a lot more intuitive, and aligned with what you may believe is your higher good, then being slow to reactivity and anger is a beneficial skill for you to harness. And Jesus teaches that. And so if you were to able to look at, that's a very feminine way in which Jesus chose to um, interact with a situation. You know, when we think of, you know, there are biblical stories of Jesus being, for example, in there's so many stories. I'm trying to think of one that I want to share right now. There's the story of Jesus being in the boat with his followers, and a storm comes, and the storm is raging, and the storm is almost a lot, almost creating an environment where the boat will capsize, and his followers are then afraid and are hollering and screaming naturally. They weren't doing anything that they weren't supposed to do. That is how they were experiencing this situation. Yet Jesus at the time was asleep. Like, Jesus at the time was fast asleep to the ruckus and chaos that was happening around him. And so that could also be very metaphorically understood, that it's almost to be asleep to the noise and the craziness that is happening around you, to almost be tuned out and deaf to that which is not serving you, because it would not serve Jesus or his followers to capsize and drown in the ocean. Would it have served? No, right? So if you are going to operate in your feminine and operate in allowing your femininity to guide you more, or just even if you don't want it to necessarily guide you more often, because you could be a someone who is primarily and predominantly in your masculine, but who wants to heal your feminine side. Absolutely, this is for you as well. By understanding that, taking that particular story as a metaphor of, I must be at rest, I must be at peace, I must be in a calm state when my world is chaotic, when my world is storming around me, when my boat looks like it's about to capsize. That is when I am to be as still and as calm, so much so that I could sleep. Like, that is the to me the essence of what my feminine energy allows me to bring. Over the last few years, as I have been healing my own wounding that prevented me from existing in my feminine energy in very positive and divine ways, I recognize that I would oftentimes have difficulties remaining calm or present in situations that were stressful or that were difficult, and challenging. And that could be any kind of situation. That could be a death of a family member. That could be the loss of a job. That could be the ending of a relationship. Whatever that was, I recognized that I had difficulties and I struggled with remaining calm and present and being able to um, that I know that I know that I would be okay in those experiences, and using Jesus as a teacher, as a guide to show me, even in those experiences, if I trust in the knowing that all is well and that whatever comes to me is here to support me, is here to help me, I can remain calm. So much so that I could sleep through a storm, so much so that I can command the storm to be still, right? Because it has to match my vibration and not the vibrations that is happening outside. Those are the beautiful ways in which I believe that when we start to look at Jesus in a way that through a very feminine or femininity based perspective, it opens us up to feeling those senses of calm and peace in times of turmoil or times of stress, because we're going to have them. It doesn't necessarily mean, although that the Bible has shared it as a story of they were literally in a boat, but it doesn't always have to be you have to be in a boat. It's you are in a situation where it seems as if you are in peril. You are in a situation, or you are in an experience where it seems as if there is no way out. And Jesus, as a teacher, was teaching his followers, his disciples, those who look to him for guidance, that follow my example. It is not necessarily what I am saying here, it is what I am doing here. And in here, I am resting. Here, I am choosing to remain calm. Here, I'm conserving my energy and my power so as to tell this storm to be still, and the storm follows suit. That which seems so great and so much more powerful than I, then has to submit to what I have said. And so that is, to me, some of the gems that we can receive if you are looking to support your femininity by using Jesus as a teacher and as a guide in your growth. And this can really open you up to, okay, well, how can I do that? How you can do that is by anchoring in the truths of who you are. Jesus had a certain level of self assurance in who he was, regardless of what you may believe or feel to be about Jesus. Jesus believed who he was. And that is the example in which we are being given, to believe in who we are, believe in what we have to offer, what we've come here to do, what we've been created to do and possess. There's a level of self-assurance and self-confidence that fuels your faith and fuels your ability to remain calm in troublesome situations, in stormy situations. So allowing this to be a metaphor in your own experience is by actively speaking words that will edify you, that will help lift you up, and lift up others. That's another great quality I feel that Jesus also expressed to his followers and disciples, and those who are just wanting to learn more, was that we can be kind and compassionate to others, even in the face of things that seem um, insurmountable. You know, um, he didn't turn around and be like, "Oh, you storm, you horrible thing, you better stop." No, he spoke in a commanding but soft way. It's peace, be still. You know, I didn't have to tell the storm that you was being a bad storm. The storm was doing exactly what the storm was created to do, right? So I don't have to blame it or condemn it or shame it for being a storm, but I can command it to no longer be a storm in my life by speaking to it in a way that shows kindness and compassion. And because Jesus is coming from a place of rest and not irritation, rest and not restlessness, coming from a space of rest and calm, and not coming from a worried, panicky mind state, heart posture, then he could speak compassionately to the thing that is here to take him out. Like, there's a power in that. There is a power in being able to speak to the thing that has been sent to take you out, and speak to it in a way that you're not matching its vibration. You are actually raising its vibration, so much so it then has to submit to what you have said. Come on, boo. If that's not the feminine energy, I don't know what is. Then I don't know what is, because that is how the feminine energy operates in my life. That is how the feminine energy operates in those around me. That is what I continuously see. And so if you take these lessons and these principles and examples of ways in which you can support your femininity, this is how you can learn to do that, by remaining in a state of calmness and peace and rest, even when it seems like, ooh, I don't know how I'm going to do it. But if you're having that self assurance and that confidence of who you are, you may not know how, but you know that you will. And that alone is enough. Like that alone can really um, move a mountain. Okay. So I would love us to start to open up our hearts to how we can interpret any stories, anything that you know or heard of about Jesus Christ and the teachings and examples of Jesus Christ, and how can you filter it from a sense of how is he showing compassion, how is he showing empathy, how is he showing me strength, but not strength in physical fortitude, but strength in the mental capacity, strength in emotional intelligence, strength in some of these internal workings that we don't necessarily that the I would say the outside world doesn't necessarily get to see, but they exist and they're important for you to be strengthening them. And so I would love us to really start to open up our thoughts in how I can start to interpret it. And this could be applied to even if you are learning about the Prophet Muhammad and you follow the Prophet Muhammad. The Prophet Muhammad has also been a incredible example and teacher of how we can submit ourselves to the will of our higher selves, our God, Allah. It's opening yourselves into how I can submit to that, but not in a way that I have to um, demean myself or anyone else. Those are not the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad. You know, religious dogma and doctrine have interpreted and changed things and have given us stories and narratives that are not necessarily the fullest picture of some of these teachings and some of the lessons that these spiritual teachers were sent to give us. You know, they had a purpose. They were sent, they were created to give the world something. And when we then take the something that they have given us, we can build and create a life that is so much more fuller and so much more radiant to what you are actually wanting and seeking more of. So yeah, this is a lot, and um, it's something that I find that has been quite revolutionary in my own personal journey. And, as I introduce this to, my practice and I'm definitely a person who has to learn something before I could teach the thing. And, I'm looking forward to seeing how this information continues to resonate with folks. And, I would love to hear your thoughts and your opinions and your insights on what this may have sparked for you. Knowing that, this is really just, again, my interpretation, my wisdom that I have received from God. And I believe that it is my assignment to show you and gift you with this knowledge so that way you can support your own femininity and your own journey of healing your feminine and embodying your feminine energy in the ways in which is true to you, and in a way that again allows you to be edified and glorified and not in a way that has to tear down yourself or anyone else, because those were not the principles that any of our most revered and beloved spiritual teachers taught. Like, Buddha did not come here so that way I can feel less about myself. That's not the narrative. That wasn't the intention um, at all, ever. And so when we allow ourselves to be educated from these spiritual teachers who have come here to disseminate knowledge to us and wisdom to us, we can continue to grow, and we can continue to elevate ourselves and, elevate our lives in the world around us. So it's beautiful because I really feel like Jesus expressed a power in faith, and in believing and in experiencing what is unseen, and really harnessing his sense of intuition and his connection with intuition in such beautiful, remarkable ways. And I do believe that if we were to study him a little more, and how, you know he came to show us these things, we would learn even more ways that we can strengthen those particular gifts that we also have been given. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it. And I would love to encourage you to consider learning more about your spiritual teachers, and whoever that is that you choose to um, listen to, or choose to engage with. Learning about them from multiple channels. And I say channels instead of sources because we have one true source, but the channels in terms of where, for example, so if you are someone who does follow Jesus Christ, where do you learn about Jesus? Has it only been through the Holy Bible? And that's okay. I'm not here to tell you that that's not okay. It is. It's wonderful, because the Bible is a living, breathing document that is filled with so much rich knowledge. You could stay there for the rest of your life and be good. But I would love to invite you to even expand to knowledge about him outside of the Bible. Jesus is spoken about in the Quran. Jesus is spoken about in the Torah, not necessarily spoken and said called Jesus, but he is spoken about there. His teachings can be found in books that are not necessarily only in the Bible. So, for example, I was gifted and blessed a copy of the Gospel of Thomas, and Thomas was one of the 12 disciples that Jesus chose, that is spoken about in the Bible itself. His particular gospel, so the writings that he wrote, the recordings that he wrote, have not been included in the Holy Bible that what we know of it today, but they exist. They are real. They are validated. Um, there are biblical scholars, and the folks who know the folks about this type of stuff, who do their research, and this is their life's work. They have been able to authenticate the realness of the documents, and they have been found and then translated into languages that we can now presently experience them. And was gifted a copy of the book, the Gospel of Thomas, in such a divine way too. And in that, this particular version that I have, it really communicates so it is written in Aramaic, which is the original version, and then it is translated into English here for those of us who read English. And I'm going to read one of the sayings here. That's from Sayings. It's 90. And it says, Jesus says, "Come to me, for my yoke is easy and my mastery is gentle, and you will find rest for yourselves." And so, to me, like, that's also echoed in Matthew in the Holy Bible, if you are familiar with the Holy Bible, where that particular statement is also echoed there. It's also shared there, where he does say literally the same thing, where in Matthew 11, I believe it's verse 28, he says to me, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And those two passages speak to literally the exact same thing, but one is included in the Bible and one is not. And it allows you to just learn more nuances about what Jesus is saying, because it is worded in a slightly different way, because the person who originally wrote it interpreted it in a different way. And so I do think it's a little unfortunate that we don't have access to what some of his Jesus's followers at the time. So the 12 that he chose, we don't have necessarily ready access to their findings and to the things that Jesus said to them specifically, and all of them. You know, the gospel does include a few, but it does not include the entire 12. And I believe, and I know in my heart, I haven't yet to find it, but I know in my heart that those that information exists somewhere. It does exist somewhere. It's somewhere in this big, beautiful world that God has created. That wisdom exists. It's there. And so I invite you to allow yourself to open up to different channels. I opened myself up to a new channel of I wanted to get to know more of the teachings of Jesus and not just what I have learned specifically from the Holy Bible. And that led me on a journey of as I said, the book was, I was blessed with this book. It was given to me in such a serendipitous way. I have been exploring the Holy Quran and really diving into the Word of God in that form as well. And recognizing that you can open yourself up to beautiful places where you can learn more about your spiritual teachers in ways that you weren't always familiar with before. So I encourage you to open up your power of faith, trusting in what you don't yet see to help you bring about what you want to see. I know an intention of mine is to see people live a life where they are in much more harmony, they have a lot more peace, they feel absent and free of shame and trauma and contention and condemnation and guilt. That is an intention of mine. And so with that intention, I don't know what that world looks like just yet, but I do know in my mind's eye, I see and I know that it's possible. And so as I continue to hold on to the power of faith that I feel that Jesus really harnessed in on, was that, hey, I don't necessarily have to see it directly in front of me to know that this exists, and that it's possible. That if it stirs my heart enough, and if my spirit feels a sense of completion when I think of this, then yes, I know it does exist. And if I continue to believe in that this does exist, then I will actually bring it forward. And that's what Jesus did often. When we think of any of the miracles that Jesus did throughout the Bible, and even in researching in his childhood, there are texts out there that do speak to more of his childhood that is not necessarily described in the Holy Bible. And so when we are seeking to learn about someone or something, it is advantageous for us to learn about them from various sources. It's advantageous for us to seek them and seek knowledge about them from a variety of different mediums, learning about them from different perspectives and different takes, because especially a teacher like Jesus, who his impact has been so great, there is so much. There is so much out there, and we can slowly allow ourselves to learn more about him in the ways that can support us and that can support the life in which you choose to live. For some person, this may not be relevant to them because they don't want to support their femininity through Jesus' teachings, and that's okay. But for those who may want to embrace a softer perspective to their spirituality, a softer perspective to how they consider and move through their own religious shames and trauma, and however religion may have impacted them, Jesus' teachings can be disseminated in a way that you can have a lot more compassion and grace with yourself if you are able to see his life and his examples through a lens of compassion and grace. Okay? So, yeah, I think that's all I really want to share right now in regards to how you can support your femininity with Jesus and the teachings of Jesus. And, shout out to the sun, just like doing its own thing outside. I'm here for it. And although now it's kind of making me squint, but it's all good. I'm grateful for your time here. I'm looking forward to hear more of how this may have stirred some things up for you. If this was maybe a confirmation of something that you have known or are thinking or have been feeling, please feel free to share, communicate, you know, type a little comment, do what is feels right for you. If this is something that you are looking to dive more into and learn a lot more into, definitely feel free to connect with me, because these are the teachings that help us to connect more with ourselves, and that in turn helps us to actualize the life that we are looking to have and manifest what we want to have in this life. And so when you reconnect with your spirituality in a way that is actually truly authentic to you, that lights up every other facet of your life, that lights up your sexuality, it lights up your, your mental capacities, it lights up, your physical strength, it lights everything up for you, because we are spirit first. Everything really is a spiritual thing first. And so when we take that as a truth, and knowing that as a truth, then learning from teachers who also recognize that as a truth, only support you and help you to become better, and to do what it is that you have been sent here to do. Okay? Because that's all I want. That's all I need. So yes, thank you again for being here. It has been a pleasure to just sit here and, communicate some divine wisdom that has been given to me, that has been blessing my life and blessing those around me. And I pray and I trust that it is a blessing to you as well. Please definitely feel free, again, as I have shared, to communicate with me, to, share your thoughts and your feelings as well, and allow yourself to be open, honest, and transparent, and see what the teachings of that your spiritual teachers can do for you, truly, if you are, daring enough to look at them from a whole different perspective. All right. So thank you again for joining me here in my Goddess Lounge. I am going to continue on with this wonderful life that I have been given. And I cannot wait until we meet again and we join again. Until next time. Thanks a lot. Bye, everybody.